All right, so for those of you just joining us, welcome. So I will be moderating the second half of the webinar. To start it off, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Dr. Lam Noel Aragones is a professor and the current director of the Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. His main research interest is on marine mammals, particularly dolphins, whales, and dugongs. Today, he'll be talking about the conservation of marine and terrestrial ecosystems in the Philippines. Take it away, Sir Lam.
Thank you, Gay. So I think you need to, yep. Can you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet, sorry. Now, can you see the presentation?
Yes, Sir Lam.
Okay. Wow. I'm humbled to be part of the special group that's often giving a special commendation to our beloved Dr. Joey Comiso. I've known him since 2011 when he first came to UP Diliman, when the institute was initially recruiting Gay Perez. And so eventually 2012, we had a better relationship, or started the real relationship. So first part of my talk will be a gift to him. I've been sharing close to my office is close to his office when he visits us at IESM. And the second part is my part wherein he also influenced me in satellite research. So I hope I will do justice to this offering to you, Dr. Joey, for your birthday. So as we all know, recently the United Nations report came up with an interesting, alarming report highlighting the biodiversity loss that we have as an international community have not achieved any of the targets we sort of had during the Aichi biodiversity meeting in Japan in 2010. So we are continuing the loss in the natural world, which was in the context of Philippines, was highlighted also by the previous speaker, one of our national scientists, Mammals. So the Philippines, I should highlight, is one of the mega diverse countries in the world. However, it is also one of the hotspots of this mega diverse, mega biodiversity areas in the world because of the alarming rate of losses. So you can see, I'd like to highlight here, the Philippines have various biogeographic regions in terms, because it's an archipelago, and there's now upgraded to have 7,641 islands. We used to know it as we'd have 7,100 plus islands only. And you can see also the marine biogeographic regions by this demarcation in the seas. So my talk will be basically H2O. I adapted it from Dr. Perry Alinio of Marine Science. It's like Ridge to Reef. So I will, of course, focus on my marine mammals in living most of the time offshore oceanic area, 200 meters deep, and then get close to the terrestrial side of the forest and examine the national greening program. The Philippines is one of the, as I said, mega diverse countries in the world, and we are fortunate to have 1/3 of the cetacean biodiversity in the world. We have 30 of them, and the dugong and the clawless otter, and some interesting photos I share here as starters. And since I came back to the Philippines from my PhD in Australia and postdoc work from University of Miami, I've been using marine mammals as sentinels of ocean health. And you can see here that it's long-lived because marine mammals, as I would like to emphasize again, they are mammals just like us. They breathe air, and most of them are long-lived, so they have the capacity to accumulate toxins in the bodies, and they have threshold for this. And so we're looking at that to look at their populations and also examining the population, or the health of their population is a mirror to the ocean health. So I've been fortunate to have been one of the starter conveners of the Philippine Marine Mammal Stranding Network, a network of stranding responders authorized by the mandated agencies and Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resource. We've been doing this since 2005. And you can see here a GIS map showing the strandings of the Philippines since 2005 to 2019. And we've been very fortunate to have collected 1,074 stranding events. And how can we use this data in terms of informing or at least helping out the mandated agency? In this case, for the dolphins and whales, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. So we've been telling them that these important maroon sites and red sites and blue sites are of concern. Here we use an ArcGIS fishnet grid tool with using a 15 by 15 pixel to highlight where the stranding areas are. Fortunately, most of our strandings are just single strandings, so they do not appear in big numbers, but often one or mother and calf. But again, let me highlight that there are areas of concern, very hot spots, both in southern Mindanao, in central or western Visayas, and then southern Luzon, as well as the west coast of Luzon, especially the home province of Dr. Comiso in Ilocos Norte. And with this data, we were able to highlight the different and better understanding in the absence of real abundance surveys or aerial and boat surveys. We've been using stranding events as proxies of indicative of biodiversity of our marine mammals, as well as understanding of their migratory pathway, as shown in the right image, strandings of some of the baleen whales, especially take note of the red dots. These are humpback whales in the Philippines, and they could go both from the west and the east coast of Luzon during the winter times in northern hemisphere. And we believe the yellow ones, which are the fin whale, are coming from the southern hemisphere. So what are the other information relevant to conservation that we have been gathering from strandings? In fact, we were not looking for bycatch issues, but we were just recently looked at the data, and we saw that 92 of the 1,074 is indicative of about 8% bycatch. And so we were tasked by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources last year to look at it much more closer. And so this year we've been following up with the pre-formatted questionnaire, and we've been looking at samples, and we've been seeing actually probably the real story of a 20% bycatch so far, 15 of the 77 this year. So bycatch, just like in any country, is an issue. We've been collecting important data for the species, for understanding its ecology, it's the medical aspect, as well as the behavioral aspect. And I've been able to influence some of my previous PhD advisees, now professionals, and we've been able to detect and monitor pathogens and toxins found in these animals, like leptospirosis is a bacterial disease that is now being found in these cetaceans. And take note, I'd like to emphasize that these cetaceans are all offshore species. They're found in deep waters. So it's an interesting context. Similarly, this Toxoplasma gondii have been detected in these cetaceans. Again, a very diverse set of cetaceans found in very deep areas in the Philippines. And I would like to emphasize to Dr. Joey Comiso this, most of this were from Ilocos Norte area, actually implicating a very complex food chain that is coupled from the land-based pollution and going all the way to deep water. Also, my previous advisee, Dr. Christine Obusan, also worked on pathogens. And most of these pathogens that we have found in our works are actually pathogenic to humans as well. And in the advent of this pandemic, we have to be conscious of the one health principle that we could get out of monitoring these animals. On the other hand, I've been also fortunate to influence another PhD advisor of mine to look at PCBs and look at the samples from various places, again in the Philippines. And out of 30 samples who just graduated last year, we were able to detect very high levels of PCB polychlorinated biphenyls in the blubber. Of course, it's a lipid-loving compound, so it's going to be accumulating in the blubber. And since the liver is the main detoxifying organ, it is also found in that organ. So it's just examples of how hard the life must be that animals are facing out in the oceanic province of the Philippine waters. So recently, just like the call for dismal Aichi biodiversity, we also have been seeing calls for urgent calls for reversal of the tide of the seemingly alarming disappearing rates of dolphins and whales all over the world. And I think this is also very relevant in the Philippines. So let me now go through, so I hope Dr. Joey has an idea now of my other world that I live in. And let me share now the part where he has been a very influential person to me as well as to the Institute. He helped us look at the influence of have insights on the National Greening Program. Just to give you some background there, as Ma'am Lulu already captured earlier, in the 1900s, most likely after the Spaniards left us, there was about 70% left. Of course, there was the Philippine archipelago didn't probably had a 100% cover because of the variety of ecosystems that we have in the terrestrial side as well. But this is alarming decline through time. So I just like, this part is where I'd like to showcase some of my trips with my students to educate them of the issues related to loss of biodiversity, particularly forest cover in the Philippines. And these are some of the other photos in the Cordillera areas, showing the indigenous people now having better households because of acquiring income from vegetable farming. But however, in the right image, I'm showcasing here the expansion that is happening throughout the years. So recently, Dr. Comiso have been influential in helping us out, having better insights of the impact of the National Greening Program. This was initially due to the charisma of the late Dean Perion, who influenced me and Gay to look at possibility of assessment of the National Greening Program through remotely sensed data. And so came in Dr. Comiso to help us out. So this image on the chart on the image of Northern Luzon forest just clearly shows from Hansen et al. 2013 data, the losses, the red and then the orange, and then of course the remaining intact closed forest and the open forest, light green. And the bar graph on the top, green and dark green are actually, the light green are open forest, the dark green are closed forest, and these are all losses. And these are based on the Hansen et al. Lancet data. And the bottom is the data from DNR. And take note of the difference in the value of the y-axis, the range of the hectareage forest loss. But the trends are similar. And note that this is a banner program of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the National Greening Program, which started in 2011. And so we could see that there was still basically losses happening even during the time of these National Greening Program. And take note of the sudden increase in forest loss, even in 2016, deep into the program during the National Greening Program. So what we would like to capture here are there have been forest losses in the National Greening Program sites before, during, and the reforestation program. So let me show you again more evidences. These are special high resolution images contributed by Dr. Joey Comiso. And then this is just one similar area captured at different times. You can see March 2014, January 2016, April 2016, and July 2019. And this is actually 2014 seems to be green, but however, it's January 2015 to April 2016, there was amazingly uh, shocking results of showing logging, in these areas. And you could see that in July 2019, there were recoveries, but still new logging sites in the area or clearing in the area. And that is exemplified by the photos below, wherein actually, I hope you could see the seedling on the left side, and that's the geotag seedling of DNR. However, if you look at the area, it's beside the crop area for plantation, and there's a patchy forest here. And so the chances of this seedling surviving is very, very low. But fortunately, there are also stories of success. And in this side of the image below, we could see that the pine forests in the Cordilleras uh, were reforested and grew back. So let me end with this simple message of how we look at develop the insights on assessing the National Greening Program. Um, the This image is a Sanghi diagram capturing the changes in these three images below. Actually, these are the southern section, or actually the southwestern section of the range of the Sierra Madres. And you can see this white section is actually Angat Dam. And that's so this is in Norzagaray area. And you can see the dark green are intact closed forest, and the light green are open forest. And the Sanghi diagram practically tells us that there was a loss of about 5,000 hectares from closed forests during the 2008 to 2010. Okay, so that's even before the National Greening Program. But during the National Greening Program, 2014 to 2016, there was further loss as well of about another 1,162 hectares. There was just a gain of 292 here from close to, and also a little mislead gain here of 745 hectares. Then there, the similar story for sparse forest, sparse vegetation, and then open forest transformation. What we'd like to feature here is that there have been large fraction of closed forest areas being still cleared. Only small gains observed in closed forest transformation. In the context of environmental crisis or environmental science, the losses of this closed natural vegetation, it outweigh the gains that we get from the open plantation reforestation attempts. Why? Because natural ecosystems like natural coast forests already have evolved evolutionarily. They have biological benefits. They play a lot of ecosystem services. They are resilient, and these are all important ecosystem services down the drain, as opposed to younger trees that are still degraded or will work out its role eventually. So to summarize, threats to marine mammals are on the increase, and I'd like to be part of the call of the world scientists asking for more protection to this group of animals. It's one of the most underfunded, understudied set of marine mammals or marine organisms in the Philippines, unfortunately. And lastly, I hope we were able to capture the implementation, the national greening program, which has been now extended to become the enhanced national greening program, be reassessed. There has to be the importance of the protection also of the natural closed forest. We should not just be relying on reforestation. I hope that's clear. Again, I am part of the great scientists that have been influenced by Sir Joey. It's a pleasure to always be with you, beside you. And from the Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology, would like to greet you. Your happy 80th birthday also from the Philippine Environmental Science Association family. We also are grateful for you. And so, maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Lam, for taking us in a journey from highlands to the oceans.